And let me factor in right now, this is who I am. This is who I want to become. Realistically, what are the steps that will take me from the branding perspective, marketing, business model, and so on to get there?
I met a lot of individuals, especially in this game, that went completely broke looking rich. It's not on you, it's in you. It's what makes you successful.
There's a lot of fear in people. And you know why, Chris? They're not confident that the expertise they claim actually has credibility. Mm-hmm. Just because I go out there and I claim I helped thousands of clients and I did this and that, but I cannot cover it, I don't have proof of concept, this is when the fear starts. And this is when you start seeing people taking their clothes off to make an impression, trying to divert attention from the fact that a claim expertise actually doesn't exist.
Yo, 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 what is shaking, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the Win-Win Effect Show presented by Virjoghe Studios. I'm your host, Chris Ross. Today, we're talking about branding, ladies and gentlemen, and who else better to bring onto the show to talk about branding and the brand architect herself. Vivi, what is shaking? How you doing, hon?
Well, greetings from Miami. As you know, I admire you, and I'm so happy to have this talk with you because you do understand and you value what I do. And the feeling is mutual. So thank you so much for having me.
I couldn't have picked a better person for this particular topic. And yes, we do have a lot of mutual respect for one another. New show coming out on Virjoghe Studios. Really excited to be a part of that. That's just one, just because I'm very passionate about branding. Because I've been, as you know, I've been attached to a lot of major corporations, especially when it comes to education. And a lot of people, when they would want to take their courses out there in an online type of market, my expertise, understanding education with accredited trade schools, is completely different to the ones that give off an illusion like they're successful, but they can't fulfill in their orders. So just that's why I'm so passionate about education, because most people don't understand the complexities and ticking all the boxes and the protections when it comes to government agencies of keeping their nationally accredited programs to utilize FAFSA's education programs. See how that would strike a nerve with me if they're pretending to be successful and they can't fulfill in the orders. So very similar to how you're looking at branding, and they want to tie in marketing and branding and think it's the same damn thing. It's not the same thing. And I love what you mentioned before, that needs to be a marriage, right? And coexist together. For the most part, we'll kind of kick this off, and before we go all the way down a deep rabbit hole and how passionate we are about what we do for a living and how we're able to be so effective. If you had to introduce yourself to people, and I know you're just moving out down to Miami is a little bit of culture shock for you, but introducing yourself, how do you typically go about doing that?
So I usually tell people, hi, I'm Vivi, and I'm in the business of turning everyone in the Michael Jordan or Versace of their industry, the limited edition of their industry. Why do I bring powerful names into the equation? People have a very short attention span. And these days, Chris, we all know that people are obsessed with successful people.
Yes. So
if you start to tell people about what branding is, they don't care much. But once you mention someone that is super successful, it resonates with them, right? The bulb goes up, the light goes on in their mind. They think, okay, I get it. I want to be that. We live in an era where the cult of personality generated more financial success than ever. Now, a lot of it, unfortunately, not everybody is the Michael Jordan of their industry. Unfortunately, we are surrounded by wannabes and also by mass-produced brands who truly took over the market, I would say, in a very strategic way, but not necessarily being based on merit. But that being said, we have to truly understand that people resonate with what they want to. And as a brand architect, I have to give them what they want in order to be able to further educate them. So start with something that connects emotionally with them. It's all about the people. Just
like any type of communication, you have to connect, and connecting to how they want the world to see them. I think it's a hard thing, even for myself. They're trying to present themselves a certain way, And I think it has a lot to do with the society and people being addicted to successful individuals. Yeah, it's very inspiring. A lot of people don't know what it really takes to be that successful. It's hard work, determination, and you have to, sometimes they like to say sacrifice. I don't believe in the word sacrifice. Sacrifice is if you don't do something. I believe it's an investment in yourself. So if you're making that investment into yourself and that time, energy, and resources, then becoming the best at what you do, you don't have to be the best person in the world at what you do. Just be the better version of who you were at that particular thing yesterday. You know what I mean? And then that way you start building on that and creating a lot of momentum. And yeah, it's easier to make analogies for people to understand the Michael Jordan of whatever industry they're in. But do you realize what Michael Jordan had to become and transform into to become the Michael Jordan? See my point? And I think that's where a lot of people get really disconnected, because when you talk about Michael Jordan as the best ever, it wasn't that he was the best ever at what he did. He was the best ever in every aspect of that game. And
he was the best version of himself.
Yeah, and also team building. He ridiculed and belittled everybody on his squad because he wanted them to experience winning the way that he experienced winning.
Yes, and I truly believe that this is we are talking about legacy brands. The reason, Chris, I always factor in and I bring into the equation legacy brands, because yes, we do have the Kardashians of the world, but when we look in history books, right, I'm looking for brands who truly worked very hard, not only to create impact, even more so, to create a foundation for generations to come. A system, a method of operation. Think about it. When Michael Jordan became famous, we did not have all this Instagram and Twitter. It was really, he earned it. He earned the right to be in the spotlight. He earned the right to become one of the most successful and impactful personal brands of all times. So that's why I'm always really basing my conversation on legacy brands, because they earned it. And I think like everything that has been built now through the power of social media, it's momentum. Right? But it will come a time, Chris, and we are not too far from it, when people will revert to core values. For how long are we going to take our clothes off on Instagram and getting a big round of applause? We have to reshift our perspective. We have to understand that the young generation needs inspiration. They deserve, right, to have exposure to educational elements. Yes, I'm all for, seduction. Branding is about seduction, but always with a tasteful approach, because this will ensure the respect that we want to receive, whether we are a personal or organizational brand. I'm very particular about that and very passionate.
You could tell, even in the essence of yourself, you get really excited. You being exposed to a lot of different cultures growing up and obviously doing what you do now. I think you speak 4 different languages, correct?
Yeah.
Having that type of education and being able to connect with others, it's very impactful. I find sometimes where people are trying to be portrayed a certain way, you can't make somebody understand the culture unless you're exposed to it. Do you see what I'm saying? And being exposed to the elite, as in being successful in luxury brands, you being tied into major brands, your luxury brands, Versace, Dolce & Gabbana.
Yes.
So being attached to all these luxury brands and working alongside of some of the elites out there. I mean, we don't want to really go down the whole list, and as in some of the influencers and major entrepreneurs, as in the sharks out there, right? I'm going to go into all the name dropping. But you being attached to the cream of the crop and the elite makes you very effective of working with somebody that really doesn't know what they really want to do as of yet. And you can start molding them from the beginning and actually presenting them to the world the way that you see them. Do you find that that's difficult? Because I find it difficult with myself, because I'm an empath. We discussed this offline. Us being empaths, I can read people really well and read energy. And I can immerse myself. And sometimes I see things in people they don't see yet. And sometimes pulling that out and extracting that out, articulating it over to them, sometimes they don't believe me. They're like, no, I don't know. I don't know about this. So I have to start conditioning their mind on, this is what I see. This is what you can be if you step into it. So a lot of what you do and how we're very similar, we're able to see things in people they don't typically see, and being able to mold that version of themselves.
But you know what? It's interesting. I'm glad you brought this up, Chris. Sometimes I'm an idealist, and I see, when I meet people, I don't see them where they are. I see them where they could be.
Okay.
I see their full potential. Most of the times, most people are not able to fulfill their full potential. And this is actually affecting not only their personal and professional life, also the way the brand is being perceived. If I meet someone, typically when I interview people, or if I do a brand identity assessment, I realize this person is a 4 now. They have the potential to become a 10, but it takes a few elements, including self-awareness, for them to embark on their journey. In order for you to move yourself from a 4 to a 10 as a personal or organizational brand, you have to have that sense of awareness and understand who you are. And in the society we live in, with social media truly, I would say, at times empowering individuals, but also making them weak at the same time, people are getting lost. They are getting lost in a world that projects so much fake, I would say, branding out there. And the idea of success has lost its magic touch. So people got lost in thinking maybe this is what success is. And this imposter syndrome that people talk about starts basically based on the fundamentals of what social media platforms have been built, meaning that success is driving, I don't know how many cars, being in a luxury home, wearing a certain, clothing line, or so on. But at the core value, when we look at the most successful brands in the world, they don't need to prove anything. You've never seen Donatella Versace going on Instagram and telling you, oh, I'm worth, I don't know how many hundreds of millions.
No, they don't talk about that.
She doesn't need to, because she already has that. She has the confidence. The entire world respects her. So I do believe that the reason people have a hard time to truly project the best version of themselves, because they misunderstand and misinterpret the idea of success. They base it based on what they are being told. Societal beliefs, social media platforms, they intoxicate people to believe that success is something totally different than what they thought success was to begin with, right? So I think we have to be very self-aware. We have to learn to detach. We have to remain calm. We have to educate ourselves. And also, we are in control. A lot of people lose control of who they are. On social media, you don't have to follow anybody you don't align yourself with. Why do we obsessively follow people like, I don't know, I don't want to give names, like mass-produced brands, if they don't set a good example? Nobody's forcing you to. It's a choice you make. So do not blame it. On the other hand, right, like I'm controlling my feed. I'm only following about 900 people, right? Why? Because I want to control my feed. What comes in my feed, I have maybe 10 minutes at the time to educate myself, to get empowered by content. And if the content doesn't resonate with me, or the brands don't, all I have to do is unfollow them. So we do have control. I think we have to start being in control. We have to stop allowing platforms or people to control the way we feel about success, the way we feel about our full potential. So that's where it all starts, I feel.
I love what you said. Yes, it's very much a choice. And a lot of people are in positions, just feel obligated. I follow you, you have to follow me type of shit, right? Okay. Well, controlling that algorithm, I think things have changed, especially when it comes to Instagram. I'm starting to see things on Instagram I don't even follow. I'm like, what is going on? Like, was I supposed to be at that wedding? Like, how was I not invited to this wedding? I don't understand. I'm not attached to these people. I agree with what you're saying. I don't follow that many people just because I don't want to be exposed directly or indirectly to things that aren't helping me produce a profit. I'm not talking about financially, producing a profit and obviously increasing some type of way, right? So I don't like to really engage in a lot of negative things because I'm not a negative individual. I'm a positive individual. So they're negative, a lot of that, and of course it's freedom of speech. Say whatever the hell you want, but it doesn't mean I have to engage in it. That's a choice. Exactly. And just as much as that is a choice, success is a choice, because I'm only going to let my mind be impressionable to things that I can control. The things I can't control, that's my superpower, is letting it go. Like when people get so fixated on, I wouldn't say haters, but get so fixated on other individuals and what they're doing. I don't look around. I don't need to see what you're doing. If you're great at what you do, you'll get my attention at some point. So I'm not going to go out there and seek things because I need to focus on what I can control. Right. I know that a lot of listeners are probably going to be like, okay, it sounds great, but it takes a lot of skill, and that skill you can form of looking at situations and going, okay, what am I learning from this type of experience? And that's key here. I think that has a lot to do with branding, and I think Andrew Tate, I don't follow a lot of things that he says, but the one thing that I did catch on to what he said is that what helped him become a little bit of obviously getting close to wealth, what helped him is learning how he spent his money. And I thought that was pretty powerful. And I think a lot of people out there in this world don't understand that we're in a world, either you're a consumer or you're a seller, right? So you have to understand who you are. If you went to a grocery store today, why did you buy the brand of milk that you bought? What about that milk? What about that specific brand did you buy? Why? And if you ask yourself these questions, that get you closer to being understanding on what marketing and branding is and why it's two separate things is my point. As a branding specialist, or especially a luxury brand accelerator, when you're working with all the laundry list of clients that you have, companies, and even some of the sports figures that retired and obviously reinventing themselves, I think that's a very hard job to do. What is the most pervasive issue in branding, do you think?
I would say is the lack of understanding what branding is to begin with.
Okay.
Right. And most of the times I just see even successful people on social media talking about branding by calling it marketing. Mm-hmm. Like I just saw like a very successful entrepreneur from Miami sharing via interview that he's been doing lots of marketing, going on podcasts and, putting himself in all these magazines and stuff and becoming the face of the brand. And I mentioned to him, I say, this is personal branding. So you are utilizing marketing trends, they change, right? Very often. Now, the branding that you are building, the legacy that you're bringing, that doesn't change. We can consistently reinvent it, adjust it, and redesign it. But at the core, you will not change unless you want to change. There are people who lack substance every day. Like you see some entrepreneurs today, they are business coaches. Tomorrow they are brand strategists, and they become an NFT.
I've seen people change and not even reinvent themselves, but they have no idea who they are.
Okay, but this is exactly. So we are not talking about those. We are talking about people of substance that understand that once you start building a legacy brand, you have to create a foundation for it. Mm-hmm. So to begin with, I think people mistake one term for another. And I always say branding and marketing should be in a marriage, not in a divorce. And right now you see a lot of corporations or even personal brands, they invest in marketing, but their branding is not on point. And they say, well, the paid ads didn't perform as well. But then you look at what the paid ads are reflecting is a poor branding. It doesn't matter. Same thing happens with SEO. A lot of the clients I speak with, they invest tons of money in social engine optimization. They bring the traffic in, but the customer retention and acquisition is very low. Why? Because the traffic comes in. After 2 seconds, they leave your platforms because number one, they don't understand who you are as a brand. Mm-hmm. Number two, the content strategy is not on point. Number three, your products and services are not designed well enough and represented enough on your platforms for people to truly be seduced by it. So before utilizing marketing and pouring lots of money in SEO and marketing strategies, make sure that your branding is on point. Once you have a solid brand and value proposition, and now you invest the money to pour into marketing, public relations, and so on, now you're exploding. But I truly believe that it's kind of like if we do reverse engineering, you don't go as Dolce & Gabbana to market and paid for marketing strategies unless you already have the collection. Imagine if Dolce & Gabbana would say, oh, the collection is coming 10 years from now, and we are investing heavily in talking to you about that collection, but the collection doesn't exist. So this is basically, I'm just giving this example. People are paying for marketing strategies without having something solid to sell. The product might exist, but it's not about how great the product is. It's about how great our audiences, consumers, and communities think our product is. Wow. And in order for this emotional connection to happen, you have to describe and position the product or service in a way that resonates with those three categories. Another element, Chris, that I feel that people are not capitalizing on and corporations are not capitalizing on, understanding there are three categories: audiences, consumers, communities. When we look at how branding and marketing is executed out there, we put everybody in the same pot. You can't. My audiences are not my consumers yet. They potentially can become our consumers. My communities might or might not be my audiences or consumers yet. So it's very interesting to understand that the content strategy, the branding and marketing approach has to be designed specifically for these three categories. Yes. And intersect at some point in order for us to consistently increase revenue and also increase the power of our brand. So I'm very particular about that. It sounds complicated, but branding cannot be done randomly. A lot of people think they take this phone and they post reels every day and that's branding. You need a content strategy. That's why you work with me. You need to sit down with a content strategist. You need to work on defining specifically who you are as a brand, what the strategic approach is for the next 3 months, 6 months. Based on that, we create content strategy for website, for social media, not randomly. I don't just put my phone in front of my face and think, oh, I'm so hot looking right now, this is branding. It's not. That's 1% of your potential. So I just wanted, I'm sorry I took a look.
No, I think this is perfect. It brings up a valid point when it ties in, because obviously what I've done over my career and what's allowed me to be in a position I'm in today is rubbing elbows with the elite like yourself and some of the elites out there to actually understand the complexities of business and real business. I'm not talking about as a solo entrepreneur or whatever your status is out there. It doesn't really matter to me. It doesn't. I'm not trying to, just say that you don't understand, but the education piece is important, and educating not just yourself, but educating your potential buyers on what separates you from everyone else out there. That's my competitive advantage, is understanding what is yours. And if you can't tell me what you do and why you do what you do on the levels that you're able to accomplish and who you're helping out there, 3 to 5 seconds, we have a problem. We have a problem. It's the only way to fix it is internal. Okay. And that's where a lot of people, they try to position themselves as an authority in the marketplace, but they're going to market not scale ready. I'm not talking about sales ready, scaling ready. I don't go to market unless I'm going to scale now. I've been working on Winjet in the background for the last, about 2 years now. And the reason why I haven't turned on the floodgates, because I wasn't scaling ready. I was sales ready, but I wasn't premature. And that's where I see a lot of people, they're trying to make money, but they can't scale the damn business. The reason why, because it's premature. You don't even know what your business is about yet.
And Chris, like one of the first, when I do the brand identity assessment with my clients, and I created, it's a system. It's a 90-minute system. We go over 30 questions. And they're quite shocked because nobody has actually taken them on a journey like that. They think that branding, you just ask a few questions and this is your brand, right? But where I do, one of the questions that I ask them, I say, what's your business model like? And they say, what does this have to do with branding? I say, everything. If the business model is not profitable, there's no reason for you to create a brand on it, because you don't even know how you're going to monetize and generate revenue.
Right.
So one of the main questions before starting to work with the clients, how are you making money? How can your operational system or your team delegation be improved in order for you to generate even more money? What people don't know about me, I'm coming from a sales background. My very first job with Versace, the reason my nickname is VVS1, like the diamond, I was selling diamonds. I was number one in selling diamonds. And the reason I was able to sell those diamonds, I freaking went home every day and I studied how the diamonds are made. What separates a VVS1 for VVS2? Everything, right? So I think product knowledge is part of branding itself, because you can't just sell something without knowing. Let me give you an example. What is this, Chris? What do you think this is?
It looks like a ruby.
Okay.
Well, as in aesthetics of it, yeah.
Okay, what do you think this is?
The book? Looks like a book.
Okay, so now when a brand has an amazing product, right? The next step is, after they develop the product, the go-to-market strategy implies the seduction element. You don't even know what it is, but you want it, don't you?
I like the way that one thing I did pick up on, just for the listeners and just for a visual side of it. If you're listening to this, Vivi just hold it up two separate things. And the way that she held it up, especially the ruby in her hand, she held it up differently the way that she held up that book. And the way that she moved her hands, she's seducing you the way she's moving it. But anyways, go ahead. So I love it.
Right. So the reason I picked this and I brought this two objects, I wanted to show you. So this is basically a mirror. It's a compact mirror by Dolce & Gabbana, and it has 4 different lipsticks in it, right? Every time I go to actually a party or a dinner and I take this out, it's a conversation piece. So Dolce & Gabbana nailed it. I already want it without even knowing what's inside, right? And then I figured out it's a mirror, which is an exceptional mirror, because I want, when I look great at dinner, I don't want to take out like some ugly mirror out of my purse, right? And then you have the 4 shades of lipsticks, but right there, they seduce you, right? This one is one of my favorite makeup artists out there, Pat McGrath. She's a highly respected authority in the field. I just did a reel on her. Every celebrity out there has a makeup line, which is quite absurd because, quite frankly, what in the world do you know about makeup? Pat McGrath has been working for decades for every world-renowned fashion show. Look what product. You don't know what it is. It could be even like a clutch, right? I could take this if I wear like a pink dress or a gold dress, and people might think, what a gorgeous bag, right? This is the power of seduction. When you have an exceptional product like Pat or Dolce & Gabbana have, the package is the icing on the cake. But they already have the foundation, which is the amazing product. Now, this one, you have to have it, right? So I think when we talk about branding, a lot of people don't understand that as soon as you build a tremendously successful product, now the go-to-market strategy has to seduce audiences. The quality is not enough without the seduction element.
100%.
And that's what I teach all my clients. And I always encourage them to believe it's not what a large budget or smaller budget you have for branding. It's about the intention and understanding that without branding, you cannot create success. At least not for long term, right? Because yes, you can generate some sales here and there, but if you aim to create loyal consumers and people to fall in love and follow you and become repeat customers, then you have to seduce them as well. So I wanted to show you those two, because about this element.
I love that you said that. I recently purchased myself a biscotti umbrella. Okay. And for those who don't know what that is, I live in London now. And me been living in London for the last 6 years, it rains a lot. Okay. Well, me, as in you knowing me, it isn't just because the way and how expensive it is. Most people don't even know what the hell kind of umbrella that is. But if you ever held one of those type of umbrellas, and the way even it deploys, it just sounds like a luxury umbrella. And even, of course, it has a gold lion's head and whatnot. But yes, it's to me, I don't need it. I can easily, put a rain jacket on or get some type of umbrella, but I like the way it makes me feel when I'm walking with that umbrella.
Luxury is a feeling.
Yes,
I just created my digital business card. Exactly. Yeah. Luxury is a feeling, right? We don't buy product just because they make us look good. We connect emotionally. It resonates with us. It empowers us. It makes us feel good about ourselves. I'll share another example. There is a reason why I drink my coffee every morning out of a Karim Rashid coffee cup. I have these cups from him. He gifted them to me a long time ago. There are 6 of them. I make a point of treating myself. The moment I look at this cup, I'm already happy in the morning, right? I could drink my coffee out of a plastic cup probably, or buy it at Starbucks. For me, this experience is meaningful. It connects me with the idea of creativity, of design. Design in itself is inspiring. So I would love people to factor in branding. The way you brand yourself is in every detail. When people come to my apartment, they see the hot pink couch, they see my cups, they're beautifully designed. They see products like that. Why? I surround myself with products that inspire me. Branding is not only a tool to generate awareness and help you monetize. Branding is a tool to help us become happier and more fulfilled. And
that's what it's about. That was my point. Luxury is a feeling. Yeah, I don't need all these things, and it doesn't matter. But I like the way it makes me feel.
Yes,
because definitely. I understand the struggle and the hard work it took to be able to afford those type of things. I met a lot of individuals, especially in this game, that went completely broke looking rich. Okay. But you know the difference. There's people out there pretending. It's not on you, it's in you. It's what makes you successful. Because you can take anything you want away from anybody. Let's see how fast they can earn it back, because it's got to be ingrained in you. You've heard me say this probably on multiple occasions. No one dropped me off on top of this mountain. Okay. No helicopter. I know I got crawled up. Okay. And then I realized I have all of these other mountains over here now. And I'm like, wait a minute. I want to go over there and try to climb those. But when you start to understand who you are and who you're not, wherever that road takes and whatever path it takes, then you start to understand the difference between certain aspects of business. Do you know what I mean? So when you're looking at a brand and how you want to present yourself, I think that's a lot of people get really confused, and they are not educated enough to even know where to start. Strategic thinking is, and you're looking at different types of partnerships. But when you have clients come to you, where do you typically start other than that audit?
I research first before someone comes to me. I research everything about that person or that organization.
Okay. Got it.
As much as it starts right there. Why? Because I'm trying to understand where they are in terms of brand perception at this very moment. Now, what I did realize, and it's unfortunate, a lot of personal brands don't like who they are. And the reason they project this fake image, or they're trying so hard to make an impression, is because they're not in love with who they are. Mm-hmm. And the only way to create a legacy is to truly assess your strengths and weaknesses. But if you're trying to copy someone, I always say model someone or something you like, don't copy it. This is the moment when you tap into being fake, and then out of desperation, you keep making even more mistakes. I think we live in a society where people have a hard time accepting who they are because they don't want to invest in themselves. You have to truly, Chris, I work 14 hours a day. People say my life is glamorous, right? My life is not glamorous, but I love my life. Mm-hmm. I love the fact that at 3 a.m. it's a luxury that I get to actually be on my phone or on my computer and research things that maybe 10, 15 years ago I would not have had access to. Mm-hmm. And that's why I think once you start investing in yourself and understanding that the more I study the market, the people around me, the better I become. And let me factor in right now, this is who I am. This is who I want to become. Realistically, what are the steps that will take me from the branding perspective, marketing, business model, and so on to get there? But you have to be very straightforward with yourself. The only way to make impact as a brand is by truly being authentic. And a lot of people talk about authenticity left and right, and they think sticking your tongue out of your mouth. I still don't understand why I see more and more women sticking their tongue out of their mouth, and they think that's cool and authentic. That's you being stupid. Unless you are 5 years old, that's not authenticity. So I think we have to truly tap into who we are at the core and invest in education. Stop buying 10 bags, invest in taking some courses, spend some extra time instead of shopping for 10 hours, invest in yourself, teach yourself to become better, learn new skills. I love fashion. I think it's tremendously important to look pretty. But quite frankly, if you start investing too much in products and stop investing in yourself and taking yourself to the next level, this is where the problem starts. There's a lot of fear in people. And you know why, Chris? They're not confident that the expertise they claim actually has credibility. Just because I go out there and I claim I helped thousands of clients and I did this and that, but I cannot cover it, I don't have proof of concept, this is when the fear starts. And this is when you start seeing people taking their clothes off to make an impression, trying to divert attention from the fact that a claim expertise actually doesn't exist. And this is an element that we see more and more on social media platforms. This morning, one of my girlfriends sent me videos of a very successful, I think he's going to be a billionaire soon, really playing a fool last night here in Miami. And you know what I sent her back? Someone who works in the same field. I sent him an interview with Ray Dalio and P. Diddy. And I said, you know, this is how actually billionaires do behave. I said, this is the type of talks they have, empowering talks. I said, that's all I have to say about that. I said, you don't impress me with these videos. I think they're quite silly. So I think there's an element of fear. A lot of people got to financial success, Chris, but they don't feel fulfilled inside of themselves. That's why you see them showing off the cars and making up, kind of buying attention with products. Because successful financial success, a lot of times, I do have respect for everyone who is financially successful. It takes a lot of guts and courage and work. But if you're not confident in yourself, it's very easy to fall into a trap of making a fool of yourself. So I truly believe that the most successful people to follow on social media, they don't need to utilize a luxury lifestyle. Even they have it at home, because they are so confident that the way they communicate offers value. Look at Gary Vee, for instance. Whether you like him or not, I happen to adore him. I met him a couple of times. I think he's such a good human being. We don't even know what car he drives. We don't need to. He created value, right, for his audiences, for his communities. We understand who he is. We don't need a watch to give him value. And I think this is where I would love people to start truly investing in the quality of people, the quality of content they put out there, the type of brand. I always say there are two types of brands. There are the egomaniac brands and the legacy brands. Egomaniac brands, all you see is their cars, their private jets. That's all you see. But we don't really understand, how is this person going to lift me up or help me to think different or take my business to the next level. And then you have the Ray Dalio of the world. You have the Gary Vee's of the world. Daymond John, perfect example. I absolutely respect and adore who he is and who he always was. I actually had the chance to work with him in 2010, and we reconnected at the EGC conference a few weeks ago. I mean, that incredible entrepreneur, TV superstar, serial entrepreneur, we don't even know what car he drives. It's not relevant because he's so powerful, and I think that's what I want people to start truly investing and spending time analyzing this type of personal and organizational brands and learn from them. Look how humble these people are. You listen to them for 5 minutes, you take notes, right? From others,
people, you know when you're on a path, when you're starting to make a massive impact, when people start repeating back things that you say. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about mirroring here. I'm talking about in other conversations. It's like when I started being in conversations with some people that I actually look up to, I knew that I was really on a path, the right one, and making an impact. And yeah, you're right. Like, what car do you drive and the watches you're wearing? I'm not even wearing a watch right now, Vivi, and I'm big on watches. Yeah, it's weird, but if you'd have caught me like 5 years ago, Vivi, you would have caught me 5 years ago. You wouldn't have caught me without a AP or a Rolex on. You wouldn't have. Now I'm starting to value other things more than the aesthetics look, because I call it new money syndrome. You get to a certain level and then you start spending and then you're like, oh, then you realize that none of it means anything. Right? But what I'm saying is how you're perceived, right? Because I know who I am and I know who I'm not. And when you're looking at the value that you possess, and if you're able to make that type of impact with others and leading with kindness, you're always going to win, in my opinion, because you can always reinvent that side of you. But that's where I loved where your messaging, and especially with your show coming out, you have to lay that foundation first. And once you lay that foundation, now you don't have to break it all down to nothing again.
No, absolutely. And Chris, I'm actually happy you mentioned that. And by the way, I just want to make sure that everybody understands, I love luxury. I've been working with luxury brands my whole life. It's just they don't define me. And as you say, I didn't even think, I do have lots of watches. I didn't even care. I was so looking forward to have this discussion with you. I was excited the whole morning to get on this interview with you. So that, I didn't even think, I just knew that I had to wear a red dress because red is one of my favorite colors. But I did not really, think this way. But I also want us to talk about something interesting. There are also very authentic personal brands who are so passionate about certain luxury pieces. It's who they are. Andrew Tate, you mentioned Andrew. He's obsessed with cars. Okay, he just genuinely loves to drive fast. And my father tells me, because he lives in Romania, where I was born now with his brother Tristan, they genuinely love that, right? They flex because that's their passion, right? but you don't see him every day talking about, oh, I'm wearing this jacket and I'm wearing Loro Piana. No, cars are his passion. And he worked hard. You know, it doesn't matter what industry you're in, but you have the mindset. He created success, you like him or not. He also happens to be a branding and marketing genius. That's why he gets so much attention. He understands the fundamental of shock value. When you see him, I think what people misconstruct and misunderstand about Andrew, he has an amazing heart. If you see him sometimes with certain people that give him a gift or something, he just warms up, he becomes a different person. And I saw an interview with him and he said, the reason I'm able to speak so passionately and sometimes I even come across politically incorrect is because of my passion. I'm genuinely driven by passion to impact change. And I think this comes across. So I think what social media platforms also are doing, they take snippets of someone's conversation, of interviews.
Oh yeah, you can manipulate that any way you want, you know.
It's very easy, right? You take 2 seconds, like, oh, this person is an asshole. And then we glorify, like a Kim Kardashian has been glorified by media platforms for a few years now because it's easy for them to glorify her. She never goes against the status quo. She never discusses politics. So it's convenient for people and media to support her because she's not a game changer. People call her a game changer, but game changers, in my view, are the people who fight the system, who stand up for their core beliefs, who impact change, who go beyond and above, even if they take a chance of being maybe banned from a social media platforms, to teach others or show others a side of the world that most would be scared to highlight. When you look back in history, for instance, even someone like Van Gogh, he only sold one painting in his lifetime.
I know.
And now he's considered one of the greatest geniuses of our times. People who changed the world have been taking lots of bullets because they had the courage to impact change. And that's why I admire people like Andrew Tate and so on. I'm not saying I agree with everything he says, but I love people who have the courage to stand up for their core beliefs, whether they are right or wrong. So
I want to see him fight that guy, that YouTube guy, Jake Paul.
I don't think it's gonna happen.
I don't know. I want to see him fight him because I don't know. I don't really watch a lot of sports nowadays, and that's kind of funny. Is when you get to a certain thing, it just doesn't give me the same type of excitement to watch. I think I get bored watching sports now. I'm also a sports fanatic. I get really but boxing and UFC and stuff like that, I will actually entertain because it doesn't last that long. So especially if you're a really good fighter. But watching those type of fights is all a bullshit. But I want to see him to see if he can actually pull that off. Right. So
I mean, his mindset, the way he thinks, right? He thinks like a winner. And it's interesting because I get his newsletter every morning, I think, in my inbox. And some of the stuff I agree with, some I don't. But I just love the fighter that he is, right? When you have that warrior mentality and you go to war, sometimes you lose, sometimes you win, but at least you start projecting that power, right? And some of us might call that toxicity or anything. I don't think there's anything wrong with being in love with yourself, as long as you are aware and self-aware of your limitations. One of my actually business associates told me, you know why I have a picture of myself on my screen, on my phone screen? And I thought, that's a little bit, I think, I don't know much. I thought, he said, no, when I wake up in the morning, I want to face myself and be in love with who I am, because the only way to become better if I already am in love with myself, and then work on becoming even better and better. And that's perspective, right? It's everything that we think of that people might be based on social media platforms. We don't really know unless we do more research. So I encourage everyone, before pointing fingers, to do the research. And talking about Kim Kardashian, there are lots of things I admire about her. I just want to make sure we get this straight.
Yeah, I mean, because it's easy to make those type of examples because people know who they are.
Exactly, right? There are a lot of things I admire. I love Skims. I love what she does with the Skims brand. I love how she was able to reinvent herself with the help of Kanye West. But specifically, it's also important when we admire people to be straightforward about the impact they make on us. And when they are wrong, or if they are not who they portray to be, it's okay for us to share that. That's why we live in a free world, or at least as of now, it's still free, right? Elon himself, he fights for freedom of speech as well. So I just wanted to make sure that everybody understands there are things I admire about certain people and things I don't like, just like about myself. There are things I like, things I despise. So
You have to use critical thinking. You don't, just because you like a certain attribute about an individual or a certain thing that they have accomplished, or the thing that maybe they have said, or the feeling that you have felt after them doing whatever, doesn't mean you have to like everything about the person and everything about the brand. There's a lot of, especially, I don't want to get to a controversial conversation, but it always tends to do that with me. But there's a lot of brands out there that are projecting and showing you things because there's a lot of, and I'm going to say it anyway. There's a lot of human trafficking and a lot of things going on in this world that are bigger than what you see on social media.
Yes.
And especially with these people that are Satanists, the reason why that they show you who they are through subliminal messages, and sometimes it's broad daylight right in your face, because they don't get the karmic distribution from it. Do you see what I'm saying? That they won't carry that just because it's by choice. And you mentioned by choice is what triggered me. And a lot of people don't understand it and actually understand how the depth of hate in this world, because they're oblivious to it, because they're only focusing on the things that the shiny object stuff. You know what I mean? Just because this person's wearing it doesn't mean that you should wear it. You should need to educate yourself on why you like certain things. Yes, you love luxury, and there's nothing wrong with that, because it's the way that makes you feel. But just because someone else is wearing something doesn't mean that you have to wear that too. You should educate yourself on also the brands. Would you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think the educational factor is what moves the world around. Imagine if it would be a generation of idiots. I think Einstein said it beautifully. He said, the moment the world will be ruled by computers, we will have generations of idiots. And to a certain extent, he's right? Because a lot of young people from the young generation, kids, they don't even know how to spell. Everything is, automatically generated. But what I also wanted to share with you, talking about luxury brands, if you don't mind, I would love to share a few things about Balenciaga and about what happens right now.
Yeah, I was dancing around that. I was dancing around that because, it's very touchy, but then again, I think it's important for people to be educated, Yes.
And I think, Chris, I do see a lot of stylists, a lot of social media influencers talking on the topic without knowing the history of it. And it just happens that by accident, I worked in fashion for over a decade, in high-end fashion, and I do my research. So Demna, the creative director of Balenciaga, he completely reinvented Balenciaga. Now, there are two things that I would love for people to think. There are two fashion conglomerates in the world. It's LVMH Group and Kering Group. Balenciaga is part of the Kering Group, which is run by Mr. Pinault, which is Salma Hayek's husband.
Yes, yeah. I'm so happy that's why you and I get along so much, because we actually understand who controls who's pulling the strings. Yeah, go ahead.
Exactly. Right now, LVMH has supremacy when it comes to the type of, like revenue they have and so on. But what we have to understand is, before Demna taking the reins of Balenciaga, Alexander Wang was the designer, right? The Alexander Wang, the amazing American designer. He went to Paris, was still running his eponymous line. He did his best, and I think he did a beautiful job. But Demna came to the brand in a moment where the brand needed a revolution. Right? Demna is he's kind of dark. I always thought he has that gothic side, which I'm aware of because I lived in Germany for a while. So for people who did not understand the culture, there is sort of like a dark side of certain creators. This is who they are. That doesn't make them bad or evil. That's their perception. That's how they view the world, through a slightly darker lens. It's their creativity. So Demna completely reinvented Balenciaga. He did tremendous work in the space. Also, he is not a fame lover. We never really saw his face. Very rarely you would see his face. He's just a very humble individual, very passionate about his work. If you remember at the Met Gala 2 years ago, he covered Kim Kardashian's face. She was coverly attired, right, in Balenciaga. That's his vision. That doesn't make him a bad person. I want to reiterate that Just because an artist like Jean-Michel Basquiat or so on has a slightly darker vision, that doesn't make them bad. This is their creativity, and they have fans around the world. So what has happened, I think, I feel like there has been a master plan behind all this Balenciaga thing. Why do I think that? Let's revert back to 2018. In 2018, Dolce & Gabbana, the brand that I love and respect, was preparing the biggest fashion show featuring about 300 models in China. It was a conversation that has been provoked by the site at the I think it's called Prada, not Prada, the fashion brand. There is a site called Prada something, I forgot. And they provoked Mr. Gabbana to say something about Chinese culture. Why? Because the marketing agency that was in charge of promoting the fashion show and basically the big launch that was supposed to happen in China of the new collection and so on, they created 3 video ad campaigns that were very offensive. One of them was showing a model that was trying to speak, I think, to say Dolce & Gabbana and was not pronounced it correctly, and there were other elements. So the campaigns were heavily offensive towards the Chinese, culture, or at least it has been perceived this way. In one day alone, the show has been canceled. All the Dolce & Gabbana pieces have been banned from online stores, from stores in China and so on. It was a scandal on a global scale that prompted Mr. Gabbana and Dolce & Gabbana to eventually issue an apology and so on. Knowing this history, when I saw this happening with Balenciaga, my mind went straight because I do have the knowledge for it, right? When you talk about those things, you have to understand what has happened in the past. That's why we have the ability to do to research, right? And when I saw this, I suddenly thought, okay, the scandal with Dolce & Gabbana was provoked, right? Even though it was based on certainly the fact that the videos were offensive, the campaigns. So I feel like with Balenciaga, to a certain degree, this has been out of hand because somehow it was intentional. Demna is an artist. He said it himself. He was always pushing the envelope. I think he thought, we are going to provoke, we are going to bring kids and everything. We are going to create something unique. The fact that the documents have been sort of being made part of this campaigns, this really triggers something uncomfortable in me. Was it really before the campaigns were launched? Did the team really notice those documents being featured there? Did they think of it? As a creative director, everybody is pushing, Demna left and right. He is the artist. The reason we have teams around us and teams of executives is because we all have to, to analyze before we go to market with an ad campaign or anything else. That's why we have a team around us. So I feel that to a certain degree, something has not been necessarily just 100% a mistake.
I mean, I respect that, and I respect people's opinions and people's views on, I guess, using critical thinking and understanding the agendas that people are trying to push, right? And things can be taken out of context. And one thing I love about art, even a painting, I like to look at art and understand what the artist was thinking of doing, the way they were feeling, right? Just like luxury is a feeling, so is art, right? So what were they feeling and how they express themselves? And sometimes artists can't articulate that well when it comes to verbal language, okay? And because they like to express themselves by the way their clothes, maybe by the way that they're doing a painting, however they want to express themselves is fine. So sometimes when the artist is doing a certain thing, it can be taken out of context of meanings, because people sometimes look for things that sometimes aren't what their brain is telling them to see. Does that make sense? So Absolutely. Your ears only hear, just like in relationships, you only hear what you want to hear sometimes. And you only see what you want to see. And your brain will tell you what you want to say, because then sometimes people don't even know how to articulate themselves. Do you see where I'm going with it? So a lot of things can be taken out of context.
And also, Chris, it's a matter of perception. I am coming from a culture.
Yes.
I lived in 3 different countries, right? As you mentioned, English is my 4th language, so I do speak several languages. I look at art, the world, and businesses differently through a different lens. I don't point fingers without, again, doing my research. When I first saw the campaigns with Balenciaga, my mind did not think that those were offensive. The first thing I thought, the kids were so amazingly looking. Honestly, in my heart, that's why I thought, oh my God, look at these gorgeous kids. When I looked at those bags that some people imply that, yes, they suggest S&M. And so my eyes didn't go there. My eyes fell in love with the child itself. So I think what's very important to understand that it depends what you're looking for in a campaign. A campaign can be offensive to certain groups of audiences and can be perceived as being endearing and beautiful by other categories. Now, by no means, I mean, the child pornography and everything that has been lately discussed, this is just, we have to protect kids at all costs. The children, they are our future, and they are so innocent. But I did not think one moment that was just a simple mistake. I feel like initially the creative team approved it. They probably thought the kids are amazing. The campaign is beautiful. We have all these products represented there. People are going to fall in love with the kids. Parents of the children, they say, my child has a tremendous time on the set. They were being treated so well. They played with the toys. So when we look from this perspective, we also have to understand that everyone has their own perspective on things. When I saw the ad campaigns, for instance, that Dolce & Gabbana did for the Chinese market, for China, I didn't like them because they didn't hit an emotional chord with me, but I didn't think they were necessarily offensive. I just thought they're like, poor taste. But I did not think they will necessarily be, oh my goodness, right? So it's a matter of perception. Branding is about perception. And we can turn something into something meaningful and empower the brand to say what a beautiful thing they did. Or if our goal is to destroy a brand, we will precisely capitalize on emphasizing the negative of it.
Oh,
so it's a system. Yes, it's a system that goes after certain brands as well to destroy them. I truly believe that. And it's a system that also protects brands who have no business to be that successful, but they are very heavily, I would say, supported by influential people and other brands. And I think that's something we have to factor in. And we have to also understand that there are certain elements that we don't see that are behind all this scandal.
Yeah, there's a lot of meaning. You can, and that's where the marketing comes from. See what I'm saying? See how you talked about marketing and branding need to be a marriage, not a divorce. Well, the marketing will tell the story. Do you know what I mean? So the way it's brand is, that's why I'm saying it's separate. Do you remember the Elon Musk truck?
Yes.
I posted something in my stories the other day. Not saying I'm an Elon fan, but he's a visionary. I'm a visionary. Okay. He did a rollout for the truck, introducing it to the world. And he took something and threw it at the damn windshield and it broke. Okay. Yeah. That was on purpose. Of course he's going to fix a damn thing when he goes in a market. But he knows his haters are going to market him, and it's free marketing. Talking crap about Elon. Oh my God, that stupid truck, the windshield broke. He looks like an idiot. Controversy sells. Okay. It sells because people will talk about it. The more that, any type of controversy out there or whatever you might have, that's free marketing. Elon didn't spend $1 for marketing for that. Not $1. And people are talking about
shock value.
Yes. Yeah. Understanding shock value. Okay. So,
right. That's what Andrew Tate does it himself. Like a lot of things he just says, and then it's so controversial. Does he really believe in it? We have to really filter through our own perception. That's why I say doing your research, right? So,
and that's why it's key. I mean, is understanding and educating yourself, not just by looking through the lens on how they want to be seen, right? And sometimes they can give a shit how they're seen because they're shocking you. That's the point. That's the whole agenda behind why they're doing it. Because I actually was talking to. The guy was tied into Deion Sanders. He just signed a contract with Colorado, but it's guy that does his coaching. And I used to live in Austin, Texas, and they were tied in the big coaching staffs and obviously the Pee-wee type of football. Anyways, make a long story short, he was talking about with Deion Sanders, and he would the reason why he was so controversial and so flamboyant when it came to what he did was because obviously what he embodied, right? He didn't come from luxury. He didn't come from those things, but he likes all that shit. But the whole point was where him getting his name out there, and this is before social media, he goes, you're still talking about me even if you're hating. You're still talking about me. I mean, you can hate me, love me, do whatever. You're still talking about me. Everyone's talking about you. So if you can get people out there in that shock value or whatever, but the key is using critical thinking as a prospective buyer, using critical thinking and educating yourself on the complexities of the brand. And then you can understand, I guess, from an artist's perspective or from whomever's perspective and understanding who they are. And I think that's where what makes you impactful is that foundation.
Absolutely. And I also think you have to know when to stop with the shock value.
Yeah.
There's a very fine line. I would love to speak about someone that I do have mixed feelings, but I just want to make sure that people know that there are things I admire about Kanye West a lot, as you probably saw in my previous posts and so on. So Kanye reinvented people's careers. He is a genius in many ways in terms of creativity, what he was able to do with his music, even with his Sunday, events, the church events and everything. Like, he is just so versatile, and his mind is just definitely very, I would say, vivid, very creative. He was also able to completely reinvent the Kim Kardashian brand. Mm-hmm. Not many people remember that, but she was his +1 at the Met Gala, not the other way around. She was
right.
Never
he opened up a lot of doors. Yeah, he opened up a lot of doors.
He was able to not only reinvent the Kim Kardashian brand by introducing her to designer, redesign the way she was dressing, the way she was speaking, the way she did her hair, and also opening doors to the high society for her. He has the ability to turn a person into a tremendously successful, impactful brand. This is how much of a visionary he is. He's the one, for those who don't know, who introduced Virgil Abloh to Paris. He took, Virgil Abloh used to design, tremendous genius. I have the most admiration, and I cannot believe he's gone. So Virgil Abloh, obviously, having an MBA in architecture and chemistry and so on, brilliant guy, right? He was designing covers and was part of Kanye's creative team. He took him to Paris, introduced him to the fashion world, opened doors and the opportunity for Virgil to become the creative director of LVMH. That doesn't imply, of course, Virgil's value made this possible, but it was Kanye who had the vision, right, to position this personal brand a certain way. So I would love to give him his flowers for his ability to understand the future, to understand how to redesign brands, to understand how to forge strategic partnerships with names like Adidas and Gap. I understand the shock value. Lots of things he exposed about corporate America, unfortunately, they were true about, the way his creativity has been limited by Adidas and so on. So we all appreciated the fact that he had the courage to go against big corporations, because that was courage, and it was almost madness to go against brands who are that powerful. But he did not know when to stop. And this is what separates.
He needs to stop with the. Yeah, it is.
Exactly.
He's taking it.
If you remember, John Galliano was at the height of his success with Dior. He was the prodigy child of the fashion world. And one night only, when he was slurring, some sentences against Jewish people, his career ended. Now he's doing amazing things with Maison Margiela, but he never had a comeback. So what I want to reiterate here, shock value is amazing. Shocking people, changing the status quo, but attacking certain groups and going against history.
That's where I was going to go with it, is attacking and shock value.
You cannot, this is people who lost their lives. These are communities who suffer tremendously. We don't have the right, no matter how much we want to shock. And I truly believe in his heart, probably he doesn't even believe half of the stuff he said, but he wanted to shock. And then it got worse and worse. So we also have to understand as personal and organizational brands that while shock value can get us in the door, the only way to create respect and remain impactful is by always having the empathy and the self-awareness to understand how far we can go. And the brands who understand empathy and have respect for others are the brands who truly have longevity, in my view. So
I just think I just think he really wants to be accepted, and he really wants to be heard. Be heard and be seen the way that he wants to be seen. And what you're seeing is outlashing and a lot of pain. People are saying he's crazy. I don't think he's crazy. I think he's trying to be heard and seen the way that he wants to be seen. Men don't ever want to be loved. And I'm going to be very controversial with this. Men don't want to be loved. Okay. It's nice to be loved, but that's not what we want. We want respect. Okay.
And admiration,
yes,
right?
Yes. And we thrive off of that. Women need to understand, to be with a very successful man or be very successful in a relationship or be, whatever, if you feel like they're the most confident, you give them confidence, they will be with you forever. Forever. They just want to feel respected and feeling confident. If you make your man feel powerful, he'll never leave you. He'll never leave you.
But I think us women talking about that, and especially now modern feminists, we are trying to emasculate men, Chris.
Yeah, 100%.
This women organization, equal pay, equal this and that. I've never seen more hypocrite women in one place than in these organizations. I know I'm going to probably get people unfollow me and get mad at me, me saying
the way I look at it is when I say things like this and people that unfollow me, I look at it, I'm just like, I'm clearing out the ones that don't need to be around me anyway.
Exactly. So I would love for us to talk about this, Chris. The cattiest women I've met in my life in business, it's quite shocking. I got more support during my career, during my lifetime, from men than from women. What I've seen, the way I see women behaving, and in this women organization, I'm not saying that every women organization out there are also organizations who do tremendous work on behalf of women, but most of them are utilizing already successful women to create awareness. And then they claim, oh, we are helping women. Are you helping up and coming entrepreneurs, or are you helping women who are already very successful, using them as props to get your name out there? Right. So I would say modern feminism is trying to say we don't need men to have kids because now we can get artificially inseminated. We don't need men to support our careers because we are powerful. We can do it on our own. We don't need men to get married to because we are independent and we pay our bills. We all know that's not the truth. Women, we love to be loved. And what a man can bring into the equation, a woman cannot, and vice versa. You cannot be a man's equal because, to begin with, we look different. We feel different. That's why we build power couples.
You're the source of creation. You're the source of creation.
Exactly. Yeah. You are bringing the emotional element. The man brings that, or it should bring. I'm not saying, there are obviously a lot of people out there who cannot deliver, whether they are men or women. But in an ideal situation, we complement each other. That's why power couples are important. I am not part of a power couple. I'm single. But what I do realize every day is how much impact my life and my professional life and personal life would have by having an amazing man by my side. So I don't want to hear all these modern feminists claiming we do need each other. A man is great, is much better with a woman and vice versa. Yes, we are good on our own. I am great on my own. I bought an apartment by myself. I'm in Miami, but I would be much better with a partner. So I just want to highlight that. And yes,
I think it's powerful.
The men needs, to be admired as well, and women need love.
I didn't mean to talk over you. I'm sorry, but I appreciate you saying that because it's important to hear, well, the listeners, and yes, I have a wide range of the demographics when it comes to my listeners, and I appreciate every single last one of them. And then one of the reasons why they keep coming back and just, I have longer episodes than most people. And the reason why I have longer episodes is I have an actual conversation. I'm not here to push a book. I'm not here to push a show. I'm not here to, no, I want people to understand and see you the way that you should be seen, and actually having a conversation and talk about things that sometimes people maybe don't really want to hear, but most times they don't want to hear the truth, and they shy away from the truth because there were sometimes people just running away from themselves and making excuses on a reason why they're not successful or not having a successful relationship. I'm single. I'm divorced. I don't like to talk about that shit, but sometimes I learn through my mistakes, right? And learning through others' mistakes on the reasons why it didn't work. You know what I mean? And I'm just saying, as an alpha, and I mean, not me introducing myself as an alpha. I don't walk in a room to say I'm an alpha. I have an alpha personality, right? I don't say that. I just am. But understanding how I feel and me being secure as a man I know what I look for in a woman. I know what I don't want in a woman is a woman to come here and not understand and coexist in a relationship and try to compete with me. I know I don't want that shit. You see my point?
And you know, like I also think that we blame it on men a lot, but we already put the boxing gloves on. If you go to a business meeting, and I would say it's a very interesting dynamic. I also witnessed inappropriate things. I had a business meeting on Saturday, and one of the business associates I met with literally kissed my shoulder, and I just did not know what to do. Right. So there are moments I just want to make sure that everybody who watches this understand. Yes, there are moments where women are being put in very uncomfortable situations, but this happens the other way around as well. When I was in fashion, I remember how women executives were kind of like hitting on these young male models, right? So this goes both ways. So it's not, I think we turn it too much into this power game where men have supremacy and they treat me. No, it happens the other way around as well. We just don't like to talk about it, right?
It does. And I was actually seeing, I don't know if you, I mean, obviously you love fashion. You've been in the fashion industry over a decade, right? So when you're in fashion, there's a lot of male models and a lot of, I wouldn't say men or women successful. They abuse their power going after these models. You know what I mean? So, and they get put in uncomfortable conversations and situations where they feel, I don't want to upset this very powerful woman or very powerful man, whatever that might be situation, whatever people's preferences are. I'm straight, so whatever. But people get put in positions and they feel like they have to do something and act a certain way just because the other person's successful and they're not. Do you see my point?
Yes, I think like, you know, like even with this Me Too movement and everything, it's a lot of hypocrisy out there as well, right? Like you did not talk about it when you were in the situation because you wanted that part in the movie. You wanted the success and the money. And now 10 years later, after you acquired success, now suddenly everybody wants to talk about it. Mm-hmm. So I think, you know, I'm very fair and I've seen much in my life, living in 3 different countries, working in different industries, including Silicon Valley and tech. Yes, I've seen power games, but I never thought this person treat me this way because they are a man. I thought that's their character because I see it with women here in Miami.
That's your point.
Some of women here, they treat me horribly, right? They don't say hello to me or whatever. And I've been here just for 3 months. It's their character. It's not being a man or a woman. We have to understand that who you are at the core, the way you treat people has nothing to do with you being a man and a woman. Can we just stop this insanity? Like who you are, it's you make a choice who you want to be, how you want to act, how you want to speak, how you want to behave, and so on. So I'm just so over, like I'm not into this men against women. I just want great partners, whether professionally or personally. I want to work and have great people in my life, independent of being a man or a woman, gay, straight, political affiliations, and all those. So I just wanted to share these thoughts as well.
No, I love, and you and I see eye to eye, and the more that I've gotten to know you and hold space with you, a lot of times people can get a wrong perception, but it's just actually understand my experiences aren't everybody else's experiences. And having my experiences with an individual, that wasn't just because people judge, and you can be judged in any type of situation, and people want to bring shovels and dig up the old version of you because they can't touch the new version. Do you see my point? And judging them for the longevity of their life and not who they are at that moment. And you touched on that character. That character ties into the foundation. And people can change, but they have to adopt new principles and habits to change.
And a responsibility. Chris, I feel like there's a lot of accountability and responsibility out there.
Yeah, I agree.
It's very easy to live life just the way we want to, how we want to, on our own terms and conditions. But we keep saying that we have these rights, and we keep claiming I have the right to freedom of speech. I have the right to live a healthy life. Right? Yes, we do have lots of rights in this world. What about the responsibilities that we have towards this world? To act differently, to act better, to become better every day, to do our research, to study before we point fingers, to acquire more skills every day. So we give to society more than what we claim back. So this, I would say, I think there's a lot of entitlement out there. Everybody feels like, I hear a lot of my girlfriends say, I'm worth it because I'm pretty. I have to have a guy putting diamonds on. And I'm looking, I'm thinking,
yeah, you could definitely tell that you're in Miami. You know what I mean? So,
right? Nobody is worth it anything unless you earn the right. Just because you are born to be pretty, that doesn't give you the entitlement that you claim to be treated like a queen. And I hate this thing when I hear all the time, I'm a queen, I'm a queen. I'm like, freak, I'm a king. I always say, I want to be a king. I don't want to be a queen. Everybody seems to want to be a queen. What the hell is that? Why do we claim this status even? It's just the most nauseating thing when, hey, queen, what's up? Hey, you're a queen. You know, I'm not a freak. Do you see a crown on my head, or do you see me sitting on a throne? So far, I don't believe I'm a queen. I think I should feel great about myself. I should empower myself, but to self-title, I don't know. It's just ridiculous. Kings and queens. Sometimes, how can I put it? I make fun of it. And I even put in my, I think in my captions, kings and queens. But I think it's ridiculous.
Well, a lot of it is just, it's all fairy dust and bullshit. You know, it literally irks me. Sense of entitlement is my biggest pet peeve, is entitlement. Because my older sister, you know, and for the listeners, I'm not sure if you know this, my older sister was born handicapped because my mom had complications when she was being born in labor, cut off like circulation. So she was handicapped. And my older sister, she passed away when I was 15. And it was a very difficult time, but I learned so much by observing her because of what she couldn't do. And if she was given the gift of being able to walk and talk and play. So I think that ties into my competitive advantage, because I had to watch her breathe through tubes and fight to breathe and have seizures in front of me. And people take all this other shit for granted. And they feel entitled. It burns me up. That's my competitive advantage, because I get to do what I do because she couldn't. But I'm not gonna. But that's not who it's not who I am. It's not my identity. Does that make sense? I can easily make that part of the identity. If your identity is being successful, you're gonna have a hard time. You know, like what is your identity? People, a lot of times, they don't understand who they are and who they want to become. And they're just around in this freaking recital called life, choosing someone else's script that they're projecting onto you. Right. And that's why I love what you do. And that's why I'm going to be really excited about the show coming out and a potential course that we'll potentially be building for your many listeners, is that you really get to the core and the root and the essence of the individual. And then go from there and educating them on how they want to present themselves to the world. I think that's very impactful.
It's thank you for saying that, and I'm very excited for our upcoming podcast, The Brand Architect. I really want to shed light on things that most people are scared to highlight out there. I think we live in a world that intentionally is superficial, because it's easy to be superficial. It's hard to look inside ourselves and face our demons and face who we are, because it's work to do. If you keep claiming I'm a queen and I'm this and that, and you think you're already so amazing, you don't have to do the work. But when you're truly straightforward with yourself, you realize how much work you have to do. Every morning I wake up, Chris, and I say, God, I should be here. Why am I still so average? Right. And I think it's not good to put yourself down, but once you are aware of your limitations, you have the motivation factor to go after what you want. And
owning it. Better. You have to own it. Just own it. Like, I would much rather have someone own their own limitations than owning the bullshit story that they have in their head.
So, Chris, I was born in a communist country at the time, at the border with former Yugoslavia. We had no freedom of speech. We were not allowed to travel. I was a prodigy child living, I would say, with the limitations of not having the capabilities to see the world. We did not have shows on TV. Like, we did not have anything. Like, I was not able to educate myself much about the world. But what I did, and my mother, I am grateful to her, to today. She passed away, unfortunately. She was able to get books. Only a very few a limited amount of books were printed in Romania without the president knowing. And my mother found the means and the opportunity to actually have books. And I was reading so much, Chris. So this opened my eyes and my sensibility. And I was also I was also raised by my grandparents until I was 7 years old in a small village on a farm. So I was surrounded by animals and by love, and I was sheltered in a way by what happened living in a city under a communist regime. So what I would love to highlight here, life was different back then. That's why I have appreciation for what I see in the world, but I also have awareness, because a lot of times the information we don't have access to is the most powerful. And I do understand that what we see out there, even about celebrities and stuff, it's about 10% of what the reality of it is. And media, right, social media platforms and also media in general is very keen on highlighting what's convenient for a particular government or country or so on. So we have to be very mindful about what we see, the information we consume, and filter everything through our own perception and knowledge. That's why I say do your research, read history books, educate yourself. We do have someone like AOC, for instance. I don't want to discuss politics, but why is this woman dangerous? People think, oh, she's smart, she's going to be the next president of the United States. We are talking about an individual who is trying to bring a communistic view or social view into a country without having the understanding of what this implies. I would send her to China or to a communist country for 3-4 months to experience that. I lived through communism. People who actually lived through communism, they listen to her. We are scared. We understand this woman is dangerous. And the people who support us, we have everyone from Anna Wintour. The reason these people are dangerous, not because they only have an ideology that is not appropriate for our country to believe in, because it will set us back 100 years, is the support system they created around themselves. They have very powerful, they have people in power supporting them. And that creates even more problems. Just you on your own being an idiot, fine. But the moment you have a support system of powerful people supporting your vision and helping you to get to the top, this is when it becomes dangerous. So I want people to not take this lightly. Please educate yourself. Please don't believe in all these stories that are being told to you. Research. If somebody is talking about socialism, about equality and everything, do your research. Look what happens in countries who actually capitalize on this system. Did it work for them? So let's not support people and brands and politicians without doing our research. So I don't know if
that's really good. That's really good sound advice. That's really sound advice. And I know that sometimes, even if you don't believe in some of the things that our opinions that we shared on this show, it's okay. You're entitled. The only thing you are entitled to is your opinion. Okay. But it's important for you to educate yourself and not listen to everything of an entity or a politician or a brand or marketing or whatever it might be, or some type of person showing their ass on social media just because you like their ass. It doesn't really matter to me. Just educate yourself. That's what Vivi is telling you. Educate yourself. And the more knowledge that you can acquire, the more power that you can obtain. So go ahead. You were going to say something.
And also, Chris, I think when you educate yourself, when you make claims or say something, you can back it up by doing your research. That's why I feel comfortable to share some things, right? Whether people agree with me or disagree, some people might say, oh, she's insane, what she says. But I am bringing you the point of view, and I'm kind of supporting my point of view by facts, right? And by research. Now, whether you don't agree with those either, that's fine. But I'm not just making claims without having a point of reference. It's very important.
It is very important. And I think any person's viewpoint on a particular topic should be heard no matter what it is. But if you're not fact checking, if you don't have anything substantial to say, shut the fuck up. So that's how I look at situations, and that's how I look at certain people, because a lot of times I hear people talking, they're very loud, but they have no substance. They have nothing really to say other than someone else's viewpoints and opinions. And they lack passion because they don't have that conviction. Passion comes from that conviction and that strong belief that turns into that conviction. Now they have a potential habit, and that habit personality trait now becomes their character. And that's where hard work and that repetition, it needs to come into place. And a lot of people don't understand. And I don't want to go all the way down a deep rabbit hole, and people don't realize you can say just anything you want to say in this society. Just because you have a microphone in your face doesn't mean you should be talking, and that's where the education comes from. Right. So
no, for sure. And that's part of branding, Chris, as well, right? The way we speak and the point of view that we are highlighting, whether on our social media platforms, in our, podcasts or so on, that's a reflection of who we are as a brand. And we cannot take this lightly. I always say that social media platforms are our digital business card. Every piece of content we post out there, every sentence we post under someone's maybe picture or video, that's a reflection of our brand, and it should be thought through. It should be the best representation of who we are. You cannot take it back. So it's very important. That's why we see some personal brands who are in the spotlight right now, truly taking a lot of heat and on a global scale, because they did not factor in the importance of truly staying true to your core values and only speaking when you feel confident that the message is being heard right. And another element I would love to say about branding and personal brands, whether you are an organizational or personal brand, if you make a mistake, take responsibility immediately. Within 24 hours, get out there. People will forgive you when you take responsibility and you are accountable. Nobody owes it to the world to be perfect. None of us. We are human beings. We make mistakes. They are strategic mistakes. They are creative mistakes. But the moment you step into the spotlight and take responsibility, I truly believe that people are more likely to forgive and even support.
Well, at least giving them an opportunity, just giving them an opportunity to forgive you. And
Yes.
and a lot of times when people don't want to own their situation and lacking that accountability is because they're scared that people won't obviously agree with their excuse, but people know the difference between excuse and accountability. Don't make excuses for it. Well, I apologize because I had this going on. No, you own what the real problem is. It's okay to make mistakes. Just don't live in them, So, but if you had to leave our listeners with one thing, what would you want to leave them? This has been a very impactful conversation. And if you had to leave them with something that you feel that is more impactful for them to raise their awareness on about branding, what would it be?
I would say have a realistic self-assessment.
Okay.
It's hard. Sit with yourself and write down who you are professionally, personally, and who you want to become 3 years down the road, 5 years, 10 years, and truly be straightforward to yourself. I think it's hard. It's hard to truly remove the perception of others, what they think and feel about our personal organizational brand, and what we truly know in our heart to be true.
100%.
And it's hardcore. So I would say do a realistic self-assessment, self-evaluation, and filter through all your senses who you want to become. And based on that, design two things: your new business model, who you want to become professionally, create a system of operation, and same thing for your brand. Create a trajectory and a system of execution that will allow you to become the best version of yourself. I truly believe that where I want to leave audiences with here is everything that has been created on a global scale that has impact had a structure, a system of execution, a method. Nothing has been created in a vacuum. Whether we are talking about a company like Apple, whether we are talking about the Elon Musks of the Michael Jordans of the world, without structure, a system of operation, discipline, methods, we will not be able to create anything of impact, including branding. So that's what I wanted to leave.
Wow, that's powerful. And I hope the listeners understood that was a very articulate way of explaining this whole conversation. and laying with that foundation. That's what Vivi is trying to, and beautifully spoken on laying that foundation. Without awareness, how could you even knowing what you are and what you're trying to do? I mean, I think that's probably one of the most educated answers pertaining someone explaining why they are or who they are and what they're trying to become. You're showing it because it's inside of you, if that makes sense. And a lot of times people get really confused in that murky water. Because if you show up in the world and telling people I'm the best in the world of what you do, but Michael Jordan doesn't have to say that. You see my point? And then we make these examples on a couple other people. And that's what separates you from a lot of people out there, Vivi.
Thank you so much. It's been such a pleasure, Chris. And I do appreciate your support. Always. And also the fact that you allow me to be transparent and you encourage me to be as provocative as I am, because this is who I am. I think you have to own, if this is who you are at the core, people will feel that, and you will build a brand based on authenticity because this is who you are at the core. I think only the moment we are trying to become obsessed by societal beliefs and what others want us to become, this is the moment when we lack authenticity. But as long as we follow our heart and we work hard to truly continuously develop our skill set, our ability to filter everything through our senses and our knowledge, we will have impact. I think Dalai Lama said it himself, you never know how powerful you are until you are in a room with a mosquito, because some people say, oh, I'm too small to make an impact. I think the mosquito is pretty small, as Dalai Lama said.
Yeah, I'm from
with a mosquito the whole night.
I'm from South Carolina, so being mosquitoes, they'll tear your ass up. I remember playing football and being on that wet grass, and then you would wake up a whole freaking army of mosquitoes and get tore up on the ball field. And I'm itching right now when you said mosquito.
Right?
That's how powerful your brain is. You remember, like, oh my God, mosquito.
Right? Exactly. It's just our body and brain has memory. And also, Chris, what I truly believe that we have to stop comparing ourselves to others. I think that's the moment when we fail, when we we don't even know what other people truly are. We always see on social media net worth of this person or that. We don't actually know what the reality of it is. Yeah, a lot of it is inflated to create sensation. So please just pay attention to yourself. Admire people, look up to them, allow them to inspire you, but stop taking for being truth what we hear, because a lot of the stuff out there, unfortunately, is not necessarily the reality.
Yeah, of it. I mean, they might have net worth and might have equity and might have whatever, but they're not liquid. A lot of people, right? So, anyways, but we can go all the way down deep. We'll appreciate you coming onto the show. Can't wait for the future success of your show coming out, the course, the business, and most importantly, just you being you. There will be other lives, guys, for like her and I are going to be doing in the future, presenting, for different parts of obviously brand ambassador with the win-win effect, the Winject Studios. But she's not going to be hard to find, guys. Just find her in the show notes and whatnot. But peace out. Much love. Y'all take care. Follow her on Instagram. Check her out. And she's holding up all of her fashion stuff that she has. Take care, guys. Thank you, Vivi.
Bye-bye. Thank you, Chris. And let me factor in right now, this is who I am. This is who I want to become. Realistically, what are the steps that will take me from the branding perspective, marketing, business model, and so on